Hi, welcome back. May you be blessed. May the name Adonai be praised. It's been a little bit of a while. So I was going to share with you in the book of Daniel. So we all know the Daniel and the lion's den story, but lately I've been just praying about it and seeking God, and I noticed a couple of things. Namely, kind of the beginning of the story before he goes into the lion's den. I think a lot of times you don't really pay a lot of attention in what happened in what was going on, kind of the context before he goes to the lion's den. So um, this message has a lot to do with that, and I pray that you'll be encouraged by it today. Um, So prior to Daniel going to the lion's den, he speaks to the king. The king at the time, King Balthazar, had taken some of the utensils, a chalice, cup. He had taken some stuff um, out of Adonai's temple, and he was using it to throw, to drink out of it during his party. And then which was obviously a great, um, which was abhorrent in God's hot eyes and a great abomination. So um, he sees a hand writing on the wall, and he asked for interpretation of it. And Daniel's remembered at this point, um, this was after the 3 Hebrew boys in the fire. This is after Daniel's interpreted many dreams for previous kings. And so Daniel lets him know that he was going to be, God was going to judge this king, and he was going to die. And that's exactly what happens. And he was taken over by another kingdom, the Medes. And that king held Daniel in high esteem. And then um, Daniel became a government leader, third in command. He had a lot of council members that he was governing over. And of course, some of the other leaders or governors were jealous of Daniel, so they looked to find blame in him. So I'll take this from the book of Daniel, chapter 6. And so the king that Daniel was ruling was ruling his kingdom, was under King Darius. And then Daniel distinguished himself amongst the supervisors and the satraps, and he had an extraordinary spirit in him. So the men from verse 6, so chapter 6, verse 6, they said, finally, these men said, we're not going to find any basis for charges against this man, Daniel, unless we find something against him regarding the law of his God. So they went to the king, saying to him, King Darius, live forever. And they all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce a decree that anyone who prays to any lowercase god or man for 30 days other than you, O king, will be cast into the lion's den. Now the king issued the decree and put it in writing so that it may not be altered according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. And therefore King Darius issued a written decree. Now when Daniel learned that a written decree had been issued, he went into his house, where the windows in his upper room opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he knelt down and prayed and gave thanks before his God, just as he did before. Then these men came came as a group and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. So they approached the king and spoke to him about the royal decree. Didn't you issue a written decree that anyone who prays to any god or man for 30 days, except for you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? And so they reminded him, well, Daniel violated your law. And so the king heard the report and he was deeply distressed, and he set his mind on how he might rescue Daniel. Until sunset, he struggled to find a way to save him. So, the king really, Daniel really found favor with the king. The king didn't want Daniel thrown into the den, but he realized his human limitation, and this was actually all a part of Adonai's plan. So, titled according to the video, From Forgotten to Taking Charge, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things in this story, and I'll go on to mention some other parts. But the first one was that we can notice that Daniel had a consistent practice to meet with God. He met with him 3 times a day, offering prayers and supplication to God. And then Adonai put his mark on Daniel using the king. He put the king issued a decree, and then Daniel's enemies devised a plot against Daniel, but they couldn't find, he was without any blame, and he had a spirit of excellence. So when they finally found the decree against Daniel and his God, now Adonai took it personal, and Daniel's source of anointing was under threat. And by praying 3 times a day, Daniel had a consistent practice. So his anointing, his fountain of anointing, was being renewed every day by connecting with Adonai in prayer. And so Daniel was also building the strength of his character because he persisted without hesitation or fear. And his enemies rejoiced over the appearance of him seemingly have a setback, like, oh, we've got him, and they go to the king. And so we see that the king interceded on Daniel's behalf by basically he fasted, and he was thinking about a way to deliver Daniel. And that just shows us man, meaning the king's limitations. And so the stone was set firmly and signed with a seal. And then it says that, so the king gave the order in accordance to his edict, and Daniel was brought and thrown into the lion's den. But then the king said, may your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you. So he made a statement of faith in Daniel's God. A heavy stone was brought to block the mouth of the den. The king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet of his nobles, so that nothing could be changed regarding Daniel. Remember earlier, he lost sleep thinking about a way, but God had a way the whole time. And then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. No entertainment was brought before him, and he was unable to sleep. We've seen in other parts of the Bible where Adonai disturbs the king's sleep so that his men can be remembered. We saw that with Joseph, and now we're seeing that with Daniel. And then at dawn, in the very early morning the next day, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. As he reached the den, he cried out to Daniel with a voice of anguish. The king spoke out to Daniel, saying, Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve continually able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel spoke to the king, may the king live forever. My God sent his angels to shut the lions' mouths so they haven't harmed me because I was found innocent before him, nor have I committed any crime against you, O king. The king was overjoyed and ordered Daniel taken up out of the den. So Daniel was lifted out of the pit. No injury of any kind was found on him because he had trusted in his God. At the king's command, now this is where the tables turn. At the king's command, those men who had maliciously accused Daniel were brought and thrown into the lion's den. They, their children, and their wives. They had not even reached the bottom of the pit before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Now King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and languages dwelling in the earth, may your peace be abundant. I issue a decree that in all the dominion of my kingdom, people are to tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He delivers and rescues. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has delivered Daniel from the pit of the lions. So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So I just want us to be encouraged today that despite the difficulty and the challenges that you're going through, we do have an enemy, but we have an even greater God. So, and that God's going to use your story in some way to bring glory to his name. So be encouraged. Know that God is on the throne and that Yeshua has a divine plan for you. He says in Isaiah 60 verse 1, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Adonai has risen upon thee. So he's going to bring glory using your story to himself, and his name will be glorified and praised through all generations because of your obedience and your ability to not be found to be found blameless according to the grace that he gives us. So have a blessed and wonderful day. Bye.